Casa Bantu is the product of years of hard work and determination on the part of Bantu. We arrived in the community of San Andres over 10 years ago now, and it's really been our dream to have a space where we could do different activities for youth to support them in different ways that we have always believed are important. So, unlike when you visited the first time, where we were just doing our capoeira classes, we now have programs in the areas of academics, of nutrition, of basic reading and writing for toddlers, of reducing dropout risks by supporting teenagers in academics through art, through music, through dance, and through sports, and a whole lot more. We're constantly looking for different ways in which the youth can be supported, and we look forward to bringing this support to more youth in different communities and more youth from this community as well. Casa Bantu, we run different programs for children and youth. We have Bantu School, which is a school support program that works with toddlers and with teenagers. So for toddlers, we have a teacher from one of our partner NGOs that runs basic numeracy and literacy classes, basically teaching kids how to read and write, the alphabet, helping develop their fine motor skills through things like cutting and coloring. A lot of the things that many young people would take for granted because they were such a normal part of their childhood. Young people from communities like this and children don't actually get to have. And so we're really very happy to be able to provide kids with this sort of educational support. You know, teenagers are, we believe, at the most risk of getting into behaviors and actions that will have long-term impacts on their lives. And so what we believe is that it's very important to, first of all, make sure that we minimize the chances of them dropping out of high school, because high school and college graduates tend to earn much more than those who don't. And they tend to be less at risk of things like teenage pregnancy, drug use, and getting into crime. And so we try to make education fun. You know, public education is very hard for kids from low-income communities to be excited about. And so we try to make science, make math, make physics, make history and literature, bring these things alive, make these things come alive for the kids and make them excited about it. It's more relatable, it's more engaging, and it still goes around these themes and these topics and tries to make it something that the kids actually want to do and want to learn more about. So as part of this wider goal of bringing kids and believing that they need more support and more productive uses for their time, Bantu also has what we call Project Play. And that means promoting learning and achievement for young people. And we do that through sports, through games. Games are such a, you know, it's something that young people are so excited about, and they always want to be playing games. And so we thought, why not capitalize on that and use their natural interest and innate desire to excel at games like basketball, at volleyball, and use that as a lever to promote things like school and education. And so we've been very fortunate to have a basketball program that's going to start its second season. We're launching a volleyball program as well soon. We do things like a pool for the kids, Pinoy pool. We've also started with some esports, some games that they can play on their phones. We help them understand the relationship between excellence at a particular sport and excellence at anything that we engage in our lives, right? The two are not completely unrelated. And so games and play and sports and martial arts have a lot to say about that. We also have our capoeira program, which, you know, we really put a lot of thought into and a lot of study into. And so the way we approach the use of capoeira as a tool for education is we look at it as a different framework and a different language for which we can teach young people to think, to make better decisions, to understand the concept of nuance, of long-term thinking, of actions having consequences, which, you know, when you see kids and adults from communities like this, these are all problems that they have. They make short-term decisions. They're unable to sacrifice the present for the future. They act out of emotion. And these behaviors and these habits will have a lot of long-term impacts. And so we use the art of capoeira to help kids understand that when you do something, there's an effect, and that effect is not just the immediate effect, but that might translate into something that happens tomorrow or the next year. And that is the way that you should go through life. You know, we use capoeira to promote things like teamwork, like empathy, like self-confidence, like trust in the other person, like critical thinking. It's really been a wonderful tool for young people. Something that they can see themselves excelling in and that they can see a future in for themselves. And lastly, we also have what we call Bantu Eats, which is our feeding program. You know, it turns out that feeding young people is a great idea in terms of predicting a lot of long-term success. Kids who are better fed are more likely to perform well in school, are less likely to commit crime, and are more likely to have long-term successful outcomes in life, such as things like finding better jobs and avoiding drugs and avoiding jail. And so we try to provide as much quality, substantial food as we can. Our average is that we provide food for 50 kids per day, which is about 250 kids for 5 days in a week. There are a lot of hungry kids, and one thing that we need to focus on, I think, for anyone who's doing programs such as this is it's not actually the lack of food that causes malnutrition in kids, according to the World Bank. It's actually the lack of diversity in terms of the nutrition that they are able to access. So we need to introduce more things like meat, like dairy, like fruits, like vitamins into their diets. We can, surprisingly or unsurprisingly, expect actually better outcomes for kids who are better fed. Opening Casa Bantu has been a real game changer for the kids of this community. You know, having been in this community for 10 years, we've seen how kids progress when they don't have enough support. They tend to drop out of high school, or they don't tend to make it through school, I should say. They tend to start work early or have kids earlier, or some of the kids in your programs will become involved in drugs. I would say 98% of the kids who come to Casa Bantu are still all in school. They're involved in different programs aside from going to regular school. So a lot of the kids who you see here, they've been to school in the morning and then they come here after that. And then we have activities up to the evening. So we're really able to capture a lot of their time, put them in a structured environment where they're able to get something to eat, and they're able to learn a lot of different things, not just the hard skills or the academics. They're also able to learn a lot about how they should behave, what's productive, what's acceptable, what's going to carry them farther in life. We've seen kids who at the start of the year were involved in drugs and had drug problems. And because of things like, say, a basketball program and how excited they were to do that, you know, they became the best attendees at those programs, have gone back to school at the start of this year, and have completely turned their lives around, you know, and that's what the right support for kids means, right? And that doesn't mean that it's easy. That doesn't mean that you don't need to invest a lot of time and energy into it. But, you know, I think what it does mean is that the farther kids are in terms of how much support they need, it needs a lot of effort. It means that it requires more effort to actually pull them back in. You know, we've also seen for our older kids, the kids who started with us, we've also seen some great success in terms of them assuming more responsibility. You know, when I began with Bantu, it was me who was doing most of the activities, you know, putting in all the legwork. But as the organization has grown, I'm really pleased to say that I've been able to delegate a lot of these responsibilities to a lot of my former students who are still my students, but, you know, they've come a long way in life. And that's really something we hope to continue doing. We hope to keep on developing young people as leaders, as role models for the younger kids in their communities. And who knows, to hire them and to eventually open more of these Casa Bantu spaces in different slums. You know, I think it was the United Nations I was reading that said that there are about 500 slums in Metro Manila, which will equal about 5 million people. And so there's a lot of demand. There are a lot of kids. And hopefully Bantu can, if we can't reach all of them, well, we're certainly going to try to reach as many as we can. And that means that there will be jobs. That means that there will be a lot of things to do for the young people of San Andres Bukid. And that's something we hope we can achieve in the future. A final message to everyone that's watching. I'd like to invite you all to come aboard and support the work that we're doing. I think it was Einstein who must have said that the definition of insanity is doing the same thing and expecting different results. Well, especially to all the Filipinos and people of Filipino descent out there, I'd like to say that if we want to see change in our country, if we want to see change in the slums of this country, then we need to try something different. We need to provide youth with the right support. Think about all of the experiences and opportunities that you had that allowed you to become the person that you are today. These kids need those same things. It's unreasonable to expect that they'll develop into successful citizens without having these same resources and opportunities. And so I'd like to call on everybody to come on board, either as a donor or as a volunteer, as a supporter. If you work for a business, let's connect. Let's see how we can work together. The beautiful thing about working with the community is that there's so much to do and that there's so much that can be done. And so, there's that saying, it takes a community to raise a child. So we hope you'll come on board and come be a part of this community and all of the communities that Bantu hopes to reach in the future.